What's up, everybody?
What's
it's
up?
Justin at S&K Greenhouse. I am here with the legendary expert gardener, Bruce Duncan. I'm so glad that you're doing these videos with us. I'm telling you, our audience is learning so much from you.
Well,
and I had mentioned in one of my videos that you might be interested in showing us how to harvest and even cook collard greens. Just maybe we can get Bruce to show us a little cooking lesson and harvesting lesson on these collards.
Absolutely.
A lot of people are doing it wrong, and I want you to show them how to do it the right way.
Well, it's not hard. We'll talk about getting your leaves first, but you can see I have my collard plants here. You remember I told you about how Hurricane Ian tore up some of my stuff?
Yes.
There's a good, look at that leaf there.
Oh my goodness.
There's a good example of where it whipped these leaves. But I tell you what, we'll just go ahead and take it. Now, you could snip these off if you wanted to use a pair of pruners or scissors or something. What I do, I don't snip them off or cut them off. I just break them off. Where the stem of the collard leaf is attached to the trunk of the plant, you can just pop it down there and it'll come right off. And that's what I do. And that's a nice looking leaf. And we'll
do you wait till the leaves get some size to them? Is there a certain point at which you want to pick them off? Can they get too big?
They can. The size is not so much as whether that leaf's tough or not. Most of the leaves out here today are pretty tender. Here's kind of an example. Now this is not a big leaf, but it's not one I would plant or I would cook.
Okay, that was a little overdone.
Well, you can see it's,
gotcha.
It's turning yellow. It's got spots on it.
Okay, so we don't want to eat that.
And it's not so much the color that's the problem. The color just indicates that that's going to be a tough leaf. Now, my grandmama, old son, my grandmama, my mother's mother, was known for her cooking, and she raised 4 girls. One of them being my mother, and the Wootons, and those Wooton sisters can flat out cook up some food. Let me tell you, they can hurt you. But my grandmama, who taught us all how to cook, when she picked her collard leaves for a pot of collards, she always liked to get the younger, the ones that are about this size here, and she would not take the outside leaves. And you know, one day, because she's the one that taught me how to cook, and I'll tell more about that in a minute. But one day I was picking some leaves and I thought, man, why am I wasting these big leaves, you know? So I thought, well, heck, it can't hurt. I'll cook them, and if they're not good, I'll know in the future. I'll just do like my grandmama did and leave them alone, pick them off, throw them away. But I cooked them and I thought, God, those are good.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's go ahead and, here's a good leaf. We'll go ahead and pop that off, and let's see, I'll get that one. And I like to harvest the outside leaves so that the young, newer leaves can come on and grow. We'll take that one. Let me come over here and get a few of these. I'm gonna take. See, this one's already been eaten on by something, so I'm gonna go ahead and take it. Won't hurt to eat that, even though some worms eat on it. And my wife may beg to differ, but it won't hurt you. And Julie's already told me when I told her y'all were coming, she said, Bruce, whatever you do when you show how to cook those collards, please wash them. Make sure you wash them, and make sure people
we don't want no grit.
Make sure people see that you're washing them. And I've told her before, honey, they'll get washed in the pot. But she don't believe that. Now, when we get into the house to cook these, I'm going to show you something about what you want to do with these leaves that my grandmama taught me. Ever since college, Julie and I have lived here in western North Carolina. I told you I was raised in the low country of South Carolina, and I could not wait to get home for a family reunion down in South Carolina to eat my grandmama's collards. And one day, this was back in the 80s, I was sitting around the house, and we were anticipating going to grandmama's for Thanksgiving, and my grandmama was then in her mid-80s, and it hit me. I thought, my grandmama's probably not going to be around long. By golly, I need to know how to cook like she does. Because after eating her collards, I won't want anybody else's collards. So I actually rode down to South Carolina and said, Grandmama, I'm bringing you back to the house. You're going to stay a few days with us, and you're going to show me how to cook. And I I praise God every day that I did that.
I do too, because I've got the benefit from your cooking as well.
Well, you can
and the knowledge she passed down to you.
You can thank Grandma Ruth for that. We're gonna do another trick that I do when I cook collards. Collards are best after they've had a good freeze on them. The colder the weather gets, the sweeter and better the collards are.
Okay.
But before that, when you're growing collards this time of year before frost or freeze comes, they can be bitter. And I think that's why some people, you know, I encounter a lot of people when you say collards, they're like, ooh, I don't want any collards. Well, number one, they never
had your collards.
They've never had them fixed right. But number two, they may have eaten them when they were more bitter, like this time of year. But my grandmama taught me ways to cure that, and I'm gonna show you right now.
Okay.
So we need to walk up here where my cabbage is. I guess this is one of those moments when you'll do that. Woo!
Yeah.
Here in the summer, I was explaining why I did these box beds right here.
I remember you had tomatoes and cucumbers and watermelons, all kinds of stuff growing right here.
I did. And of course now all of that's out and we're transitioning into cool weather plants. I have more Savoy cabbage here and I have curly kale over there. And this was done back. I told you I wasn't a school teacher by trade, but I did teach some school in between chemo treatments. Some people, I guess your audience doesn't know this because we haven't talked about it, but I was diagnosed with leukemia 15 years ago. I was told I might only live 3 to 5 years, and I'm still here. I have some issues, but God's grace has been so wonderful to keep me here. But on that previous video that I said back when I taught horticulture, well, I didn't teach horticulture, and I don't want to sound like a liar, but let me explain because I've seen some comments about it. I taught math and chemistry when I was doing that school, but I wasn't a school teacher by trade. I just did that in between chemo treatments because I couldn't work. The principal at the school I was teaching at came to me and said she knew about my gardening and what I do in gardening, and she said, Bruce, I would really love for the kids to be taught how to grow a sustainable garden in an urban setting that doesn't take up much space, which I think is a great idea.
Absolutely.
So I wasn't a horticulture teacher, and I didn't mean to mislead anyone on that previous video. All right, now the reason we're here, I told you down there that collards can be bitter this time of year, and my grandmama had a cure for that, and that is she mixed cabbage in with her collards.
Okay.
Until cold weather came. So we're gonna come over here and we're going to harvest, and you can pop these leaves off just like the collards that I showed earlier. They just pop right off. And we're gonna take about 7 or 8 of these leaves here. And this is Savoy cabbage that we talked about in the previous video. All right, I think I've got what we need. Now let's go in and cook these bad boys.
Oh man, we're getting to go inside and cook.
Yes.
Before we go in, on behalf of S&K, we got you a little something.
Oh no.
Yeah. I got it in the back of my truck here.
I saw that umbrella pine.
This is
what do you call a Ciadipides?
Ciadipides.
Ciadipides. I knew it was something
verticulata.
Like that. Oh yeah, verticulata. Well, get it right now.
I got to get the Latin right.
That's right, get it right.
But I know that you don't have one of these in your landscape.
I appreciate it.
And you've been so good to us with your time and showing us how to do stuff.
That's a nice tree, Justin. It's not cheap either.
No, but the thing is, it's hard to appreciate now, but when this thing gets about 8 or 10 foot tall,
it's unbelievable.
You'll have traffic going by about wreck.
I appreciate you. Alex, big hug, my man. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Love y'all.
All right, well, let's go in and cook some collard greens.
Yeah, let's do. Hey, Lulu. If you want to get Lulu in here. Lulu, There, you remember back in July when y'all came and did that video, you might remember we were in the backyard and I said, you hear that? My baby's crying.
Is this the baby?
That's the baby.
This is Lulu.
That's
this is
Lulu.
a miniature schnauzer?
Miniature schnauzer.
Oh, goodness.
Well, we're in the kitchen of my home.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to talk about cooking collards. The first thing to make a good pot of collards, I believe, and what my grandmama taught me, is how you cut them. Cutting them makes all the difference. Now, two things about cutting collards. One is the stem. If the stem, Alex, I don't know if you need to get closer in so I can explain this, but here's a collard leaf with a big stem, and here's one with not so big. It's much, you can see the difference. This stem will be fine like it is. You don't need to worry about it.
Okay.
And some people cook their collards with these big stems in it, and that's fine, but I prefer not to. Now what I do, when I have a leaf that has a big stem like that, I'm going to cut that stem out. And I'll take my knife and I'll cut, let me turn that board over. Boy, that sounded like we was ripping the island apart. And I'll come down both sides of that stem and just slice down the edge of that stem, and then I'll just pull it apart right there.
Now, I've heard that if you leave that stem in there, it's a little bit bitter. Is that why you don't want to cook it?
It is.
Or it just don't get as tender, maybe?
It's a combination of being a little bitter, but for me, the biggest thing is I just don't like, when you see me slice these leaves in a minute, you'll understand.
Okay.
The rest of these leaves, I don't see any other stems that I think is going to be a problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these leaves, and I just remembered, y'all hang on, my wife made me promise I was going to wash them.
Okay.
So we will wash this one to show you how we're going to wash the rest of them, okay? So
Just gonna rinse that off there. Mm-hmm. We washed the collard greens, didn't we?
We washed the greens. My wife can go to bed with a smile on her face now. She can rest. All right, now what I do is I'll take these leaves. Excuse me. I will wash that off. Anyway, getting off chasing a rabbit there. All right. I rolled my leaves. I stacked them up. You saw what I did.
We stacked them up. We got the big stems out.
And we rolled it like a cigar.
Okay.
Like we're rolling a cigar. And this was a big deal with my grandmama. And I'll tell why in a minute. But once I start slicing this roll, I want to slice it in about 1/4 inch pieces, as you can see. And we will just continue slicing this rolled up cigar of collard leaves. I'm not a professional chef, by the way, so if you're watching this video and I'm cutting this like, oh Lord, I can't believe he's cutting like that. Hey, it's how I do it. Don't worry about it. I've only sliced off one finger so far. No, I actually did that on a table saw, but that's another story. I'm down to the stemmy part. I'm not going to keep those. There's something about this process, after you cook them in the pot and then eat them, they just seem to be more manageable. By cutting the collard leaves this way, you're cutting more of the leaf. You're cutting more cross section. And that cutting of the leaf, according to my grandmother, would help take the bitterness out. And that's why sometimes when you eat greens at a restaurant or something, sometimes they're almost mushy. They've been cut so much.
Oh yeah.
And I don't like them cut too much, but I think this process cuts them enough to help take that bitterness out, but still give you
that's a good balance for sure.
A good balance.
Yeah,
okay.
I agree.
Through the magic of video.
That's right. We're going to show you how do you go from this to this. Well, the thing about collards, they take a long time to cook if you're going to do it right, for them to get really tender.
Well, they need to boil for several hours. When I say boil, you can boil them for a little while and then turn the heat down and just keep a good simmer on the pot. But it gets them down to a tender consistency. you'll be one of those persons that will go, oh, I hate collards.
Gotcha.
Because you don't want to eat them like this.
Right.
We're going to season them. I boil them down for a couple of hours at least, or a little longer. Now I'm going to add my seasoning. And I like bacon, but I have used country ham at the grocery store. They sell a pack of what's called country ham pieces. Those are after the ham is cut and delivered to the grocery store. The supplier who cut the country ham will have all these little pieces left over. Rather than throw them away, they package them up and sell them as side meat.
Yep.
Or seasoning meat, and that's very good. I love country ham pieces to season my collards with. Fatback was my grandmama's choice. Yeah. And that's good too. Yeah. I'm telling you something.
It put some flavor in there.
Fatback will do it. But I'm partial to bacon. Over the years of cooking collards, I just like bacon. So I have my bacon here, and we'll get our pot going, and it'll take a minute for it to get hot. I buy bacon from a store that is frozen because it's not breakfast grade bacon. It's cheaper cuts, and you can buy it cheaper because for collard's sake, I'm not going to be cooking this bacon for breakfast. I've got my bacon where I want it right now. It's not completely cooked, but it's good and tender. We've got the bacon juice going real good. So now I'm gonna take my onion that I chopped up.
Okay.
When I cook collards, I like to take one good size onion, coarsely chop it, and then we're going to add this to the bacon, and we're going to do what's called sweating the onion, and that's just cooking it just enough till it's soft. In this video, if anybody watching happens to notice that my kitchen's a little unorganized, a little messy, it's because we started filming before I had time to clean up.
We didn't give you a chance. We started filming after he cooked, so thank you for letting us do
Oh, absolutely. But I guess I'm saying that because Justin knows me, so he knows what I'm about to say is true. If I have a fault, and I have many, but one of them is I'm a neat freak. Am I not?
Oh, I know. We can look at your yard and know that.
One thing Grandmama was big on, and I picked up her habit, when I cook, I clean as I cook.
Yeah, that's a good practice.
If I could give anybody a tip, when I get through, like with this frying pan, for example, after we saute this, I'll bring it over to the sink, I'll wash it out and clean it up and put it back, and so it'll be ready.
That way you're not so overwhelmed when you're done.
When you're done. Okay, now, we've got our onion sweated, it's good and soft. All these, the onion flavor, the onion juice, the bacon juice, the grease, it's just
I think you could put a piece of cardboard in there and I'd probably eat it right now.
I guarantee you, son. I promise you. Another thing we're going to do.
All right, folks. This is where
it gets real.
This is where it gets real right here.
And now, sometimes once the collards have been through some real cold weather, you don't have to do this. I do it anyway. I just like it. But I like to add some brown sugar to my seasoning. So we're going to put some brown sugar in there. And I know somebody's watching this video going, well, how big an onion, what size onion was it? How much bacon was that? How much brown sugar? Folks, when I cook, I don't measure anything.
That's right. I don't either.
I don't measure. I just go with what I know is good. And I'm going to say this. I'm going to add a little bit more sugar to this. When my former football coach used to say, if you practice scared, you're going to play scared. So when we practice like we were really meant it.
Yeah.
Same thing with cooking. If you cook scared, you're going to eat scared. So when you're cooking,
so be confident.
Be confident. Add it.
Just go to it.
Don't worry about it. You think, oh, is that too much? It don't matter. Now we're going to take all that and we're going to mix that together. This is ready to add to the collards. But before I do, I'm going to take my pot of collards that we've had boiling over here. Now, most of the water a lot of the water has boiled off. I'm gonna pour not all of it, but at least half of it out. All right, see how good I did that without spilling the greens out?
You've done this a couple times.
Oh, I've done it a few times. All right, so we've got a good deal of our water. Don't pour all the water out, but keep some. But when you add your seasoning, too much water will water down the seasoning. You don't want that to happen. So we're just gonna take, I could have done it that way so the camera can catch it. Now, we've got our seasoning in here with our collards. Now I'm gonna turn that eye off, come over here, and I'm gonna run some water in my frying pan. And then we're just gonna take our collards and mix all this together. I like to let it cook after I do this for at least 30 minutes to an hour, or let it simmer. And that'll get the flavors mixed in real well. One more process and we're through.
Okay.
One more thing I like to do is, my favorite is seasoning salt. Now some people use regular old table salt, but I like seasoning salt, Lowry's seasoning salt.
Okay.
Now I'm funny about my seasoning salt.
It's got to be Lowry's.
It's got to be Lowry's. If you bring another brand of seasoning salt in here, I'm gonna throw it in the trash can. But I'm gonna add some seasoning salt and give it a good sprinkling, and we're not gonna be scared.
That's right. You just season with confidence over
We're
here.
gonna season a little bit more now. I think that's good. So we got our and some of you watching this may go, "Whoo, boy, he laid the salt to that." Seasoning salt isn't as salty as like table salt. So keep that in mind. If I was adding table salt to this, I wouldn't have put a fourth of what I just did. But seasoning salt is not real salty. I'm gonna stir it a little bit, and we're done.
You're just going to let that simmer for about
30 minutes to an hour.
30 minutes, and you're ready to eat some collard greens.
Collard greens is a must on college game day.
Okay, that's right.
When Clemson's playing football, there's 3 things we're going to have in this house for our tailgate if we're not at the game. And if we're at the game, we take it to the game with us. But we're going to have a pot of collards. We're going to have a low country boil. We're going to have some shrimp. We're going to have some corn on the cob, some Adelaide sausage, crawdads, catfish, whatever else we can throw in there.
I can feel South Carolinians right now shouting you down.
Oh, hallelujah. Hallelujah. Can you get a tambourine out?
I'm telling you.
You want me to preach on it?
I preach on it.
Let me preach on it.
I feel the energy from the low country just.
And then the third thing we're going to have is some boiled peanuts.
Oh yeah.
One thing, the culture is different. Where I grew up in what I call the real South, and I'm sorry, North Carolina, but Western North Carolina, Virginia, it's just not.
It's not the same.
It's just different. It's but that's okay. I don't mean that ugly. Now I will say I've got some kin people in Eastern North Carolina, and that they're more like where I grew up, the way they eat and everything. Right. But this area is I don't call it the deep South. Now somebody from New York's snickering. But where I grew up, you don't watch football without some boiled peanuts. All right, folks, we got our collards finished. They've been marinating for a while. They're ready to eat. So let's dig in and see what you think.
Let's look at that. Got the onions and the bacon and
see how the way the onions cook. You can see them, but they blend in so well. But oh, feel how tender they are.
Before it goes right through it. Let's give these a try. Oh, shut your mouth,
son.
Oh my goodness.
Hang on. Did I just die and go to heaven?
Yeah, I think so. I'm up here with you.
I'm about ready to sing in the choir.
I feel bad. They're sitting here watching us eat. If I could get it through the camera into their mouths,
Justin, honestly,
I wouldn't, because I want to keep it to
I know
myself.
some of you watching are probably thinking, okay, this is all about, make it look good and everything. It's
There's
that good.
times you brought collards to the greenhouse and we made it a whole meal.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people use it as a side dish. We use it as the main course.
Alec, son, eat some. Get you some.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me try this.
Tell me what you think.
Al's not big on vegetables.
No, but I'll sure try them.
So if he's eating collards, they are good. Because he's
See
not.
what he says.
That's actually really good. Oh my gosh. Don't feel like that dish.
All right.
Really good.
All right, Granny Ruth, my grandmama's been dead for some time now, but did she know what she's doing?
Yes, she did. and I think you've made her proud.
I think I have too.
Well, Bruce, thank you so much again. This has blessed me, and I know it's going to bless our audience. And, well, you want to tell them until next time?
Be a plant person.